Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. Welcome to our channel, everyone. My name is Dr. Chhoda with Ignition Time. We work hard on this channel every single day to bring you the latest news as it pertains to the country, the economy, as well as our money. I want to wish all our viewers and subscribers a phenomenal Labor Day holiday, and I hope you get to spend some time with family and friends, and you get a chance to sit back and take a step back. Let's start with this article on your screen from CNBC. These charts show you which states will get the most money from President Biden's infrastructure bill. Now, let me give you the bottom line. California, Texas, and New York will likely cash in big on the $1 trillion infrastructure plan if it makes its way all the way to President Biden's desk. But the less populated states like Montana and Alaska will actually get the most money per capita. So the Senate has overwhelmingly approved the $1 trillion infrastructure bill earlier this month. But now the House plans to pass the massive $3.5 trillion bill by October. The problem is the conservative Democrat from West Virginia, Joe Manchin, is not happy about this, and I will do another video detailing his opposition. Let's start with this chart on your screen, which is the estimated infrastructure allocation bill per resident and is adjusted for the population. Now, those darker colors represent more money per resident as a direct result of the infrastructure bill. Let's start by taking a look at Alaska. The money allocated per resident in Alaska is $6.7 thousand. Think about that for a second. Almost $7,000 allocated per resident in Alaska. Let's take a look at Montana. Just over $3,500 per resident allocated in Montana. In Wyoming, $4,500. Let's shift gears to Vermont. Vermont, $3,500, and in DC, it's just under $4,500. Now, this has a lot to do with the population of individual states, but you can already see that states like California, Texas, and New York will cash in big on this big infrastructure plan, but the less populated states like Montana and Alaska will actually get more money per person. Now, the administration did say that California should plan for at least $44.5 billion in infrastructure funds, which is the biggest sum for any state, with highways and public transit comprising about $35 billion out of that total. So California would get the most money. It is the most populated state in our country. Texas comes in second with an estimated allocation of $35.4 billion. That's between $27 billion in estimated highway funds and $3.3 billion in estimated public transit funds. The third state to get money in order of priority, in other words, in order of how much money is being given out, California being the first and Texas being the second. The third state is New York, which is projected to receive $26.92 billion. So yes, folks, a lot of money is being handed out. In fact, let's show you this chart on your screen that shows you the estimated infrastructure bill allocation by state. So you can start to see all the states here that are actually allocated money. And let's go down this list so you can start to see the individual allocations per state and how that allocation is broken down. California, over $44.5 billion allocated, with $25.3 billion for highways, $4.2 billion for bridges, $9.5 billion for public transit, $3.5 billion for water and sewage systems, and other expenses account for $2.1 billion, the money that's going to be allocated. Texas is getting over $35 billion, and you can see the breakdown for Texas for highways, bridges, public transit, water as well. New York gets just under $27 billion. Florida is state number 4, getting over $19 billion, and you can see the breakdown for Florida on your screen. Illinois is state number 5, getting just under $18 billion. Pennsylvania is getting just under $18 billion as well. New Jersey, $13.5 billion. Ohio, almost $13 billion. Georgia, just over $12 billion. And Michigan, getting almost $11 billion. So you can start to see that different states are getting different amounts of money. And an analysis by CNBC shows that Vermont, Montana, Wyoming, and Alaska lead when it comes to estimated per capita infrastructure spending with at least $3,500 per resident. Even though California is getting the most amount of money, because California has so many residents, because California is the most populated state in our country, the per person allocation in California is just $1,250. So let's take a look at this chart on your screen that shows you the categories that are grouped into three sections, the categories of spending under the new spending plan. And you can start to see that transportation is getting a significant amount of spending. This chart, by the way, represents the bipartisan infrastructure plan that is going to reach President Biden's desk, but House Speaker Pelosi is essentially using her influence to make sure that it goes along with the $3.5 trillion stimulus bill, unless of course Joe Manchin has something to say about it. So you can start to see the transportation components like roads and bridges, passenger and freight rail, public transit constitute a huge component of the transportation aspect. Utilities, high-speed internet, power infrastructure, clean drinking water, protection against climate change. These are the other components. And then, of course, there is the environment. Now, all of these estimates from the White House are based on the allocation of funds in prior legislation. Now, keep in mind that the current law that could get passed could change the formulas based on new factors that the lawmakers come up with. So current White House estimates also leave out any competitive grant programs for specific economically significant one-time projects. So we could start to see some pet projects from some of our lawmakers get more funding. Now, any improvements are likely to happen at the local level, since it's the states and the local municipalities that essentially decide how to use 90% of the non-defense public infrastructure spending, and they usually have significant costs when it comes to the upkeep of all of these things. So the bottom line is, even if this money is sent to the states, and even if the federal government passes this new law, the $3.5 trillion bill, on top of the $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure plan, even if that happens, ultimately it's the states that are going to decide how to end up spending all the money. So this is super important for us to really recognize, folks. In fact, here's a comment from Vikram Rai, who's the head of Citi's municipal bond strategy. The calculations that determine how much money one state receives relative to another is set by statute and can vary slightly over time as lawmakers update spending models. The Department of Transportation is given an allocation and they decide how to allocate to various states and localities. So the number of factors that decide the size of a grant are many. So this is a little bit complex, but folks, at the end of the day, each state will individually decide what it's going to do with the money. For example, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut are expected to receive about $15.2 billion for public transportation based on this formula. Now, that's 24% of the total that's allocated to public transportation. And this suggests that the administration is planning for a vast public transit infrastructure and feels that the federal government feels like these states need more money. But Louisiana, for example, which by the way is suffering from billions of dollars in damage from Hurricane Ida, is expected to get just $1 billion for bridge replacement and repairs, which is the seventh amongst all states and about 3.8% of the total dedicated to bridges. So it's a small amount, but it's more money that's dedicated to bridges. So essentially, the federal government is trying to do what they can to try and even this out, but in the end, it's going to be up to the states to decide what works best for them. And by the way, speaking of Hurricane Ida, I hope all of our viewers and subscribers in all the impacted states, including Louisiana and Tennessee, I hope you're safe. My thoughts and prayers go out to you, and not just mine, the entire Ignition Time community. Please be safe. Thank you so much for watching. Please click the like button. Please click subscribe. Please enable notifications. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time. I work hard on this channel every single day, and I'll continue to do so. I'm fortunate to have a phenomenal video production team with Joseph and Jeanette. So please click like, please click subscribe, please enable notifications. It is a source of motivation, not just for me, but for my video production team as well. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.